Hello everyone and welcome back to Sendik's Weather channel. Today we are looking at the latest from the models for the next couple of weeks, which will take us into the second week of July. Very interesting. From the outset then, we've got low pressure to our north and east over Norway and Scandinavia, part Scandinavia, and we've got a weak area of high pressure to our south, where we are bringing in the wind from off the Atlantic, and it is definitely cooling down from what we saw last week, for example. There has been patches of drizzle around, and they have been quite persistent in places, particularly further northwards, but they are going to be clearing away through the latter part of this week. So we'll have a look at what the models are showing. Now, I have seen for the start of July, or the end of June, start of July, the potential from some of these models for heat wave threshold conditions to be met once again. Particularly the GFS and the GEM models, suggesting even possibilities of 36 degrees. But I must stretch, they must be taken with a massive pinch of salt, and obviously it's a bit of a way off, so things are still uncertain. It's still 7 days away, 8 days away. But we'll have a look at what they're showing anyway. If you enjoyed today's video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I do appreciate your continued support. And we'll also be looking at some longer range content at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, so like I said before, we've got, and I've got different screens now, high pressure to the south and our west, low pressure is away to our north and east, and we are bringing the wind from a gentle westerly direction, meaning we are turning more Atlantic driven, and we are turning more Atlantic driven and more settled with that. As we go into Wednesday into Thursday, high pressure begins to build to our east and tries to build to our east, successfully does just about. Got high pressure to the south and the east, low pressure is pushed away to our west. Winds are going to more of a southwesterly direction, bringing in the 10 degrees firm, which is bringing in some warmer weather. Sorry about that. It's bringing in some warm weather, the southwesterly winds taking back over, 10 degrees firm moving through the country, and that could lift the temperatures into the low to mid 20s, maybe even high 20s in parts of the south and southeast. It's very close to bringing in 50 degrees firm, actually. If we look there at 12Z, 27, 28 degrees, pretty pleasant for many, particularly in the east. Now, if we go beyond that then, so to this period where there's a bit of uncertainty, around the 1st of July, we could see a very big heat spike. See, high pressure begins to migrate eastwards, and we do try and bring up a southerly or southeasterly wind, and that allows some warmer or hotter air to move in. You can see on this GFS run that we do see a bit of a surge of the 10 degree and the 15 degrees moving into the south of the country there. That's going to be bringing in some warmth. You can see there, 33 to 34 degrees on the southeast coast on the 30th of June, indicating potentially quite warm temperatures there, particularly in the south and the east. That's 30th though. And this is pretty interesting pattern to see develop, because it wasn't really favoured a few days ago, but now it sort of is being turned back by the models. Going beyond that, though, we do see that warmth gets cleared away to our east as the high pressure begins to lose its strength. We've actually still got the Azores high to our west, and that's kind of having more dominance at this point, bringing in more of a westerly Atlantic-driven flow, but remaining mostly dry, away from the north and the west, of course. Now, going beyond that today, 10 day 11 with the GFS run today, it is showing low pressure beginning to try and make a push back across the UK from off the Atlantic. You can see that there's a sliding southwards, right over the top of the country into the second week of July, but it's a long way off. That weakens under the areas of high pressure surrounding it, and that just brings bouts of rain, particularly to the north. There, before we do again return more to a westerly flow, northwesterly flow to the end of the month. Lots of warmth though. Look at the heat surges to our south over Africa, parts of southern Spain, I should say, parts of Italy, and that's just Portugal surging northwards there. That could be in signs for into the third week of July of a change in patterns, but of course that is 14 days away. I shouldn't worry about it too much. Basically, to summarise the GFS run today, it's showing around average at the moment, Atlantic-driven flow, but not particularly unsettled. Going into the latter part of the month, could turn warmer, even hotter, particularly in the south and southeast, but of course, a bit of uncertainty. How does the GEM compare then, by comparison? So again, we've got high pressure again. This is for tomorrow. Moving to our east, we're beginning to migrate eastwards. Low pressures to our west and east, and winds are in from the west. They are going to be transferring into more of a southwesterly wind, though, by the weekend. So obviously turning a bit warmer, milder, warmer, whatever you want to say. before we do see that. So the weekend looks quite pleasant for many. Before into that start, into the end of June, we could see that surge of heat, which is suggested by the GFS. 1st July, though, this one's a day later. Tuesday the 1st July, midnight, we've got the 15-degree ice firm through the country, besides the central belt and northern belt of Scotland, and we've got the 20-degree ice firm into the south there. Pretty ridiculous, but it's not uncommon these days. If we look at the temperatures with this one, very similar to the GFS, but a day later, 33 to 34 degrees in that southeast of Norfolk, for example, there. But of course, again, like I said, a bit of a way off, and it's the GM, bit of an unreliable model, let's be honest. But going beyond that, though, we see that that heat clears away to our east, and we go into more of a fresher westerly Atlantic-driven flow. Now we have low pressure moving through, could actually bring some thunderstorms to the southeast there after that heat spike. And then we do turn drier and obviously a little bit calmer with the systems with a cooler northwesterly taking over. So then again, very changeable and very mixed patterns being shown here. We'll finally look at the ECM AI model because the 12Z hasn't come out yet, but the AI model has updated. This is still the same suite, so it's from the ECMWF model, and this is the AI version, artificial intelligence forecast. So again, high pressure begins to move to our east and southeast, winds into the south and southwest into the latter part of this week, weekend looking warm. Into the 1st of July, low pressure forms to our east, to our west, low pressure to our west, but a bit more influence on the north there, could be a few thunderstorms in the north. Winds are in from the south or southeast again, bringing in that 10-15 degree ice firm through the country. 20-degree ice firm a bit more restricted for other parts of southern France more than affecting the UK, but again 15-degree ice firm through the country mostly, and that's bringing in some warmth there. Temperatures again 33-34 degrees, pretty good model consensus today for quite a big heat spike. If we look beyond that though, with the AI model, high pressure just begins to take over and take back control. But it's very flimsy, and it's out to our west, so we are actually bringing in more of a northwesterly wind, but we are still remaining quite warm, or even hot, I guess, winds in from the west, but we're still remaining around the 10-degree ice firm, keeping those temperatures probably in the low to mid-20s for many. So remaining pretty dry, but quite pleasant for many, with not too much showery activity, even though some places do need the rain. But I guess you can't take it all, can you? Can't have it all. If we look then at the GFS ensembles then for London, you can see the latest is that we are remaining above average for the next week to 10 days before we do see a dramatic drop towards average, or slightly below average actually, into the 1st and 2nd week of July. And you can see with that, temperatures do dip. Precipitation spikes aren't ridiculous and they're not too bad, particularly for the south there, but you can see a few precipitation spikes showing up, suggesting more showery activity is possible into the 1st week of July, but of course it's a long way off and is very much uncertain. Can actually have a look at the AI FS model suite ensembles, but they're not fully out yet. Look at the 6Z, very similar pattern, above average, going but slightly below average and around average into the 2nd week of July. Long way off, but it does look like it might turn into more of an Atlantic-driven flow into that 1st and 2nd week of July, suggesting maybe more showery bursts. So, if we have a look then finally at the CFS model to see what it's predicting for July, here you go. This actually looks like a pretty nice July if this was to be correct, but of course it's the CFS. This is for July, there you go. You can see high pressures over Western Europe. We are bringing the wind with that from a southerly direction. That could be quite hot and volatile June. Low pressure could be out to our west there. If it is out to our west, we could be quite hot, volatile. Temperatures in the 30s sort of June, July. With that one, it's pretty dry as well. Again, if that high pressure was further eastwards and we're bringing in that southerly wind, could be bringing some quite big thunderstorms. If we look in August, does look a little bit worse. We've got northern blocking to the north. Northern blocking to the north, yeah. We've got blocking to the north. Winds are in from the northeast, so that actually indicates maybe slightly cooler and more unsettled conditions possibly in August. But we're not going to look beyond that because there's no point. So, thank you all very much for tuning in today's video. The general theme of general trend is, again, for it to be around average for the next week with Atlantic-driven westerly flow, but not too unsettled at all. Temperatures probably hovering around the 20s for many. Before we do see maybe to the end of the month, a sign of a mini heat spike, heat wave, whatever you want to call it. Temperatures may get into the 30s, particularly in the south, but of course we'll have to see how the situation develops over the next couple of days, and if we do see proper cross-model consensus, because it's not fully certain yet how hot it will be, particularly in the south. But then after that, maybe we will turn into more of an Atlantic-driven mobile pattern. Might see some more Atlantic mobility, as I predicted in yesterday's video. So thank you all for tuning in to today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you found it informative, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.